I recently watched One Battle After Another. It's a very good film, but what impressed me the most was the villain, Captain Lockjaw. Sean Penn's performance is so delightfully unhinged, his villain comes to completely dominate the film in a really fascinating way, and it got me thinking about the value of an antagonist. Hi, my name is Tim, I write for television, and I have always been my own worst enemy. In some ways, writing a hero is the easiest thing you can do. They fight on the side of good. They are usually skilled and talented. They're usually charming and attractive. They are the character that you as the audience spend the most time with, so you come to understand their motivations and their worldview. Villains, on the other hand, are much harder to write. Often, writers don't even bother with the villain. I mean, they get a few lines, they show up here and there to impede the hero, and then they go away. It doesn't really matter. They're not important to the story. And yet, when a villain is well written, they are usually far more iconic than their heroic counterparts. So today, let's talk about how to write an antagonist. We're not talking about anti-heroes or villainous side characters, only the main antagonist. What are some tools a writer can use to construct memorable bad guys? There's an old saying that every villain is a hero in their own telling. This is excellent writing advice. A good villain should have an ideology that makes sense to them. They should have a code of conduct, morals, an understandable worldview. They should have motivations that the audience can understand and maybe even agree with. Villains with a relatable worldview are usually only villainous because of the way they choose to pursue their goals, not the goal itself. Let's look at one example. Gul Dukat is the running antagonist of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. He is a Cardassian military and political leader. He was once the overseer of the brutal occupation of the planet Bajor. He's an autocratic middleman. He's ruthless and cunning, and while he's not technically at war with the heroes, he's always a thorn in their side. What makes Gul Dukat interesting is that he has a clear moral justification for his many war crimes. He was doing his duty to the state. He even justifies his treatment of the Bajoran people. He claims that the occupation helped Bajor modernize. It was good for them, actually. His worldview, while quite incorrect, is consistent throughout the show, and that's important. The best written villains help reveal something about the hero. A villain who is well developed and has clear motivations may not actually be an antagonist to just anyone. They are an antagonist specifically to the hero, because they have an opposing worldview. An agent of chaos will naturally reflect your lawful hero. A buttoned-up symbol of authoritarian control will naturally stand in opposition with your plucky rebels. Some villains are great not because they oppose the hero, but because they are so similar to the hero. A villain who, in another life, might have been an ally, but matches the hero in their ambition and single-mindedness, which makes for a combustible conflict. Let's look at another example. Gul Dukat is the ideal reflection of Captain Sisko, the main character of Deep Space Nine. Sisko is a negotiator. He's willing to make deals, to make sacrifices and compromises. He's willing to let the little things slide. He's not a zealot.
May I help you, gentlemen?
I was following you. You must have taken a wrong turn.
It looks that way.
What matters to him is doing what's right. This makes Dukat the perfect foil. Dukat is also willing to let things slide. He's willing to make deals, to compromise. He's always eager to hop on a call with the captain. Only Dukat is different because Dukat doesn't care about right and wrong. He serves his ambition for his nation, as well as his personal ambition. He is not Sisko's opposite, but his reflection. Some of the greatest villains are so iconic because they are a visual representation of a very common fear. Handsome bullies who beat you up in high school, ruthless criminals, really bad boyfriends. Quite a few iconic villains arise from our fear of authoritarianism. Nazis are pretty overrepresented in the pool of iconic villains, and for good reason. Nazis are scary. They're Nazis. I've got a perfect example for this one. The thing that makes Gul Dukat so infuriating is that he's a bureaucrat. If he were a warrior who could be bested in single combat, that would be one thing, but he's not. He's a middleman. When he gets caught undermining the heroes, he just hides behind the bureaucracy of Cardassia and faces no repercussions. When his brutal occupation of Bajor ended, he was not put on trial for his crimes, he was promoted. Dukat perfectly encapsulates a lot of people's anxiety over interacting with uncaring bureaucracies. Some villains have become so indelible because they're charming. They're attractive, they're deeply sympathetic. Maybe they're no good, but maybe you can fix them. These villains are usually the result of some world-class acting. Villains like Detective Holt from Training Day, Hans Landa from Inglourious Basterds, or Bill the Butcher from The Gangs of New York. These villainous performances are so rich and nuanced and fun that the audience can't help but want to spend more time with the villain than they do with the hero. It helps if the villain can make you laugh. There are a bunch of great examples of this kind of villain. Basically, any villain in Disney's golden age of animation would qualify, but I think the best example for this one is the obvious choice: Gul Dukat. One of the first things you'll notice about Gul Dukat are his good manners. He's welcoming, even generous to his guests. He's wicked, but never rude. He greets you with a smile. It's a smile that will become more and more punchable as the show progresses, but it never fades. Throughout the show, Dukat expresses a creepy, persistent interest in Major Kira, who once lived under his brutal oppression and hates him thoroughly. But what's interesting is that he's so likable that even Kira can't help but occasionally want to help the guy out, especially after she helps him reconnect with his long-lost daughter. And what makes the conflict so much more interesting is that every time Kira forgets, for even a moment, that Dukat is a monster, she immediately feels tremendous guilt. His charm helps create internal conflict in the hero, as all good antagonists should. Sometimes a villain is only as iconic as their moment of defeat. Perhaps they are proud and their hubris does them in. Perhaps they're a sniveling little worm who can't wiggle out of this one. Perhaps they think themselves unbeatable, and you just can't wait for them to be proven wrong. It's Schadenfreude, through and through. We like watching bad things happen to bad people. But more than that, we like when bad things happen to bad people because they are bad people. I've been racking my brain trying to think of the best example for this, and I think I got it. In Season 3, Episode 7 of Deep Space Nine, the crew accidentally trip an automatic security system aboard their station, left over from a time when the Cardassians were in charge. The crew try to override these various security measures, only to trip more and more severe ones. What's so galling and also very funny is that every time they trip a new security system, the ship plays a recording of Gul Dukat.
Attention, Bajoran workers. Your failure to surrender is forcing me to take stronger measures. In 5 minutes, we will begin pumping Neurocene gas into the habitat ring.
Eventually, a countdown begins for the station's self-destruct sequence, and the crew reach out to Gul Dukat himself to try to help them get out of this situation. Dukat, being a proper antagonist, sees this as an opportunity to retake the station for the Cardassians. He beams aboard and tells them that he will fix the problems on the station if they agree to give the station back to the Cardassians. When Dukat tries to beam back to his ship, it trips another automatic system, assuming that he is a commander abandoning his post, locking him out of leaving. This is such a satisfying moment because Dukat is thwarted by the very institution he has always hid behind. He is defeated by his own bureaucracy. Of course, since it's Dukat, he simply switches to helping the crew and then leaves when it's all over. Not all stories need a fleshed out villain. Guardians of the Galaxy is a good flick, but Ronan the Accuser is super boring. He has no development, he's not really fun to watch, but that's okay. He has like 3 scenes. Guardians of the Galaxy is about making friends and building a team, so it puts its energy into that. And that's fine. But I think it's really interesting when a movie puts a lot of time and energy into sculpting and developing a villain, and then that villain just falls completely flat. Let's look at an example. In the movie Spectre, the writers decided to redo an old Bond villain, Blofeld. Only this time, instead of Blofeld being introduced as a criminal mastermind that Bond is thwarting, they've turned the story around. In this version, Blofeld is Bond's adopted brother, and this whole criminal enterprise was established for the sole purpose of annoying Bond. Why does he do all this? Because Daddy liked James more. This is really cringe. I don't know what else to call it. It's just cringe. Let's go over our villain checklist. Does Blofeld have a worldview? No. He has no grand plan. He just hates James. Does he reflect the hero? No. Bond's whole deal is that he's a personal mess, but he's unwaveringly devoted to Queen and country. Making the villain have a personal motivation against James makes it so Bond is no longer fighting for his country. He's just fighting a guy who doesn't like him. That's less interesting. Does Blofeld embody a common fear? No. He's pathetic. He's a jealous little wimp who's mad because James is too handsome and charming. No one is scared of this man. Is the villain genuinely likable? No, again. Can you imagine hanging out with Blofeld? I mean, what if you were in his organization and you find out that actually this whole thing was devoted specifically to punking his much cooler older brother? It's weak. It's really weak. I would recommend therapy and then bounce. Lastly, does Blofeld have a satisfying flaw that undoes him? He has a lot of flaws, sure, but they don't matter. He dies unceremoniously in the next film just to set up that film's villain. Spoilers, that villain also sucks. The thing about Blofeld is that he wouldn't be such a narrative drag if the film didn't spend so much time invested in him. I mean, it's like they went all in on a pair of fours. So, we've gone over what makes a good antagonist and what makes a bad antagonist, but why do we need antagonists at all? Some movies don't. Warfare and Dunkirk are two excellent war movies, and neither include an antagonist. I made a video about Warfare earlier. You should check it out. The reason these movies don't have villains is because these movies are about the value of human life and the horrors of war. To show the heroes vanquishing the enemy would completely undermine the humanist message. But not all stories are like this. Some stories are about a guy who sucks. We like giving form to our fears. We like giving a face to our contempt, especially if it's a punchable face. We like to see the good guy win, but more importantly, we like to see the bad guy lose. Maybe we don't like this about ourselves, but it's true. We like to see the bad guy suffer a lot more than we like to see the good guy heal. That's why we love movies about vengeance. Perhaps it would be better if the hero just got some therapy, but we don't want that. We want to see someone explode this guy's heart. So let me know in the comments, who's your favorite villain and why is it Gul Dukat? Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next week.